Okay, let's just dive right into this. For the last few years, we've all gotten pretty comfortable with artificial intelligence playing the role of essentially a hyper efficient intern, right? It drafts our emails, it summarizes dense reports, maybe it even suggests a financial trade. But at the end of the day, a human is sitting there reviewing the work and signing off on it. But what actually happens when the AI steps out of that advisory role and walks straight into the C suite? I mean, think about it. This is a new executive that doesn't need to sleep, doesn't take coffee breaks. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating architectural shift in financial technology. We're looking at KAELUM. It's a system where AI is no longer just advising on the money, it is directly governing a live, fully regulated commerce currency. So, to map out how we're going to tackle this, here's our agenda for today. First, we'll look at the AI advisory illusion. Second, how Claude governs the money. Third, we'll go inside the commerce currency. Fourth, we'll break down the KATE operating system. And finally, number 5, the perfect market window. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the AI advisory illusion. We really need to understand the massive difference between a fast intern and an actual chief operating officer. Look at the boundary the financial industry has historically been terrified to cross. In the status quo, which is honestly almost everything passing for AI in finance right now, a model does the heavy lifting, sure, but a human takes the responsibility. The human decides. Well, the KAELUM way absolutely shatters that model. KAELUM is built on an architecture where an AI, specifically Anthropic's Claude, governs the system in real time. There is literally no human advisory layers sandwiched between the AI's decision and the final financial outcome. When a transaction happens, Claude isn't just suggesting an action to some compliance officer. Claude is the compliance officer. Moving right along to Section 2, Claude governs the money and what's known as the historic pull request. Picture this. The date is May 9th, 2026. Anthropic maintains this highly respected public GitHub repository called Financial Services. It's basically the gold standard reference record for how Claude is put to work in the finance industry. Now, before this date, the major contributions came from massive giants like LSEG and S&P Global, and they all followed that safe status quo model we just talked about. Analyst workflows, research accelerators, basically just tools to help humans work faster. But then, KAELUM submitted Pull Request 15.9. This wasn't just more advisory tooling. This was the full architecture for an AI chief operating officer governing a live, closed-loop digital commerce currency. The whole weight of this moment is summed up perfectly by this quote from KAELUM's founder and CEO, Gregor Detterville. He said, "Claude governs the money directly." Simple, but incredibly profound. PR 159 made this permanent and totally public. It proved to the world that Claude was no longer just a sidekick helping a human govern money. For routine operations on the KAELUM platform, there is zero human approval. None. It's a truly monumental leap in trust and technological deployment. Okay, Section 3, inside the commerce currency, and how they managed to completely escape the crypto label. So, KAELUM built a completely new financial model. It's the world's very first AI-governed, non-crypto, closed-loop digital commerce currency. The token itself goes by the name KLM, and the mechanics are actually pretty straightforward. It has a fixed floor price of exactly 9 pence in the UK. Customers buy KLM and spend it at partnered merchants, and they instantly get a minimum 6% discount on their transaction. But the absolute crucial part of this loop is that only partnered merchants can redeem that KLM back for normal fiat currency. Because of this strict closed loop, it falls under some very specific regulatory exemptions, namely the UK Electronic Money Regulations of 2011 and the EU e-money directive. And get this, for UK VAT purposes, KAELUM is actually legally classified as a multi-purpose voucher. It is definitively 100% not a cryptocurrency. By architecting the flow of money in this specific way, KAELUM has basically created a genuinely new regulatory category. They completely sidestep the massive friction and legal headaches usually associated with volatile digital tokens. Which brings us to Section 4, the KATE operating system, or, as I like to think of it, a 21-agent brain. K stands for the KAELUM Audivo Treveless Engine. Now, it's important to realize this is not just a single monolithic AI doing everything. It's actually a highly specialized 21-agent brain divided into 3 core categories. First, you have internal operations. These agents handle things like legal, finance, and overall platform health. Then you have user-facing agents. They manage onboarding, creator tools, and merchant performance. And finally, cross-system agents, which handle the really critical infrastructure like transaction intelligence, fraud detection, and cybersecurity. Every single transaction that passes through KAELUM is screened by Claude. Every quarterly reward is calculated by Claude. It's essentially an entire corporate workforce operating continuously around the clock. And they aren't just using a one-size-fits-all model here. Anthropic didn't just hand over one AI. KAELUM uses a highly specific tiered deployment. Claude Opus 4.7, which is the most powerful model, acts as the brain for the KVI. It governs compliance, maintains that token's floor price, and handles deep financial reasoning. Then, Claude Sonnet 4.6 steps in for the standard agent execution across the platform. Meanwhile, the incredibly fast Claude Haiku 4.5 manages all the high-volume transaction routing. And listen, Claude wasn't chosen just because it was convenient. It categorically outperformed every single alternative out there on compliance reasoning and regulatory language precision. When every automated decision carries a strict regulatory outcome, having an AI that can think through consequences like a seasoned compliance officer was absolutely non-negotiable for them. All right, on to our final section, number 5, the perfect market window and Europe's payment gap. So why is this happening right now? Well, to put it into perspective, right now, Visa and MasterCard have an absolute chokehold on the market. They control approximately 65% of all Eurozone card transactions. For European consumers and merchants, that kind of reliance, that lack of localized sovereignty, is a massive issue. In fact, in February 2026, the European Payments Initiative CEO urgently called for alternatives, and that was a call echoed directly by European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde. Believe it or not, there are currently 13 EU countries that don't even have a national payment alternative at all. The market is practically screaming for a localized, highly efficient competitor. But here's the catch. The traditional institutional answers to this problem are moving at a snail's pace. Wero, for example, which is the European Payments Initiative's big answer, won't even have merchant payments fully ready until 2027. The much talked about digital euro, yeah, that one won't arrive before 2029 at the absolute earliest. But KAELUM is live today. Their payment rails are already up and running via TrueLayer open banking. Their Agentic banking suite, which includes cool features like savings vaults and treasury management, is already fully deployed, with 34 automations actively running right now. Because they are live while their competitors are literally years away from catching up, KAELUM has set some seriously aggressive gross transaction value targets. I mean, look at this. They're aiming for £40 million in year 1, scaling rapidly to £250 million in year 2, and reaching an astonishing £750 million by year 3. And let's circle back to the core premise of this entire explainer. Claude is going to process, analyze, and govern every single transaction inside every one of those £750 million. Which leaves us with a pretty profound paradigm shift to consider. KAELUM and Pull Request 159 have fundamentally rewritten the record. AI is no longer just sitting on the sidelines giving advice. It has literally stepped in to run the engine. So it really begs the question, as traditional infrastructure lags farther and farther behind, are we actually ready for a future where algorithms, not legacy banking institutions, directly govern our wallets? It's a completely fascinating development, and for sure, it's one that's going to radically reshape the whole commerce landscape. Anyway, thanks so much for walking through this explainer with me. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.